You can totally make it.
Hi guys, thanks for watching. This is my first video in my quarantine cooking sessions video series. Today we're gonna make some bread, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started here. So all you need for this recipe is water, yeast, salt, and flour. It's best to use unbleached, just all-purpose flour. So you're gonna need 3 cups of water, and you're gonna just put that in your bowl. And then we're just gonna mix the yeast in there. This is 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. Just kind of sprinkle it in. And make sure you wash your hands, but we're gonna just kind of swish it around here. And it'll kind of start to get bubbly. That means the yeast is active. And then this is 1.5 tablespoons of just sea salt, Mediterranean sea salt. So we're gonna sprinkle that in. And then in most recipes, you would kind of wait for this to activate and get all bubbly, but with this one, we don't have to do that. We're just gonna go ahead and put our flour in. I'm gonna sift it in, but you don't have to. If you don't have a sieve, that's fine. It just kind of helps it incorporate easier. And at this point too, if you wanted to, if you have some like fresh rosemary on hand or some thyme, you could totally add that in to flavor it a little bit. You could also add some cheese if you want to. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. Walnuts would be really good in there. So now we're just gonna mix it until it's incorporated. We don't really need to knead it. Just kind of gonna mix it around until it's consistent. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of scraping the sides of the bowl and kind of pushing it down. It is gonna stick to your hands. That's part of the fun. Okay, we've kind of got this like cohesive, shaggy, kind of together ball of dough right here, and that's about as incorporated as it needs to be right now. We're gonna let this rest for a couple hours and it'll rise, and during that time it'll kind of hydrate itself, kind of do some of the work for us. So that's it for now. We're just gonna leave this. We're gonna cover this bowl with plastic wrap, or you could also use just kind of a damp cloth towel. And we're gonna check on it in a couple hours. Hi guys, welcome back. This is actually the next morning. I decided to prove my dough overnight in the fridge because I started it a little bit late, so that's also totally an option. As you can see, it is huge. It has definitely doubled in size, and we have tons of like air bubbles in there. Those are gonna be awesome. It's gonna create a great bread. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna divide up this loaf into 4 pieces. This makes 4 loaves of bread. So we're gonna dust our surface here. And these loaves can sit in the fridge for up to a week. So if you just need 1 loaf right now, you can just bake off 1 of these and then save the rest in the fridge, just kind of wrapped up in some plastic wrap, and you can just bake them off later. So we're gonna carefully kind of just get this out of here. Oh man, look at all that gluten action there. It's amazing. And we definitely don't want to overwork this. We want to try to preserve as much of that, as much of those gluten strands as we can. So we're just kind of gonna get it into a somewhat even mound, and then just kind of divide it up. So I'm just gonna bake off 1 today, so I'm just gonna show you kind of how to quickly shape it without overworking it. We kind of have this like square here. I'm just gonna flip it over, fold it into itself, both ways, and then just kind of like use my hands to try to get it tight and smooth on the surface into a nice ball without kneading it or overworking it too much. So there we go. I'm happy with that. Now, there's a couple different options for how to bake this off. You can definitely use a Dutch oven. That's probably the best, tastiest way to go. But a lot of people don't have a Dutch oven, so I'm gonna demonstrate just in a loaf pan. So I just put some parchment paper in there. You can also put a little bit of cornmeal on the bottom to kind of help with the crust. But I'm just gonna plop this in here and let it kind of rise and take the shape of this loaf pan for about 40 minutes. And I've actually already turned my oven on to 450. It works a little better if it's really, really hot and preheated for quite a while. So I just went ahead and did that. But yeah, so we're just gonna let this chill. We'll be back in about 30, 40 minutes. Hi, we're back. As you can see, it's been about 40 minutes and our loaf is looking great. It's risen, it's turning to fill out the bread pan. It's looking beautiful. It's nice and smooth. You can also see that there's some air bubbles in there. It's great. It's gonna be a great loaf of bread. So the first step is to boil about a cup of water. I've already done that, but while that water's boiling, we're gonna go ahead and cut some slits into the loaf here. So you can just use a really sharp knife, and I usually just do one little cut on each side. This is just to kind of help the bread expand. The pattern is up to you. You can get creative, you can do whatever you want. So the next thing we're gonna do, Josh, you wanna call Ari?
Ari, come here, buddy.
The next thing we're gonna do is I've already placed a sheet tray in there, and I'm just gonna pour my hot water into the pan. This is just gonna help the bread get a nice crust on the top. So there's that. And in goes our bread. We're gonna check on this in about 25 minutes. I'll see you then. Let me think. Where are you going? Okay. Okay, all right, so I checked on my bread at about 25 minutes and it had a little bit longer to go, and now it's been about 30, 32 minutes, and I think it's ready to go. Check this out. Such a cute little guy. It's nice and brown. It sounds hollow when you click it. That's a good indication that it's done. And I'm very happy with that. Now I'm just gonna let that cool for probably about an hour before we cut into it, and we are good to go. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your bread, and feel free to send me a message if you have any questions. Okay.